Today we're going to be exploring in more detail 3 key subjects. Those 3 key subjects we're going to be looking at are inclusive leadership, accessible and inclusive workplaces, and the recruitment of diverse talent. The first session that we're going to be looking at, that we're going to be diving into is building inclusive leadership, strategies for cultivating diverse leaders. In terms of this, we're going to have Sarina Mitchell, who's the Commercial Procurement Strategy Manager for Network Rail. She's going to dive into the data, explain a little bit more about the data, and then Sarina is going to be joined on the panel by Elaine Billington, Chief People Officer at National Highways, Natalie Penrose of HS2, and then Nick Jordan of Network Rail. So how we're going to run this session is that Sarina's going to come up first of all. When Sarina's finished, we'll invite the other 3 panellists up over to take a seat. And then we'll be asking you from the audience to ask questions using your Menti tool again and fire those questions in. So for now, can you put your hands together and please welcome up onto the stage Sarina.
Right, just check the time. It's still good morning, so good morning everybody. Absolute pleasure to be here today to talk us through some of our leadership data that we captured this year. So I am a member of our steering board for the FAIR programme, so I've been kind of instrumental in supporting the team pull all of this together, so it's a really great opportunity for me to speak to you all today. So I'm focusing on this leadership piece. So I'm going to take you through some of the data, some of our key insights, and then I'm going to welcome a great group of people up to explore some of those strategies and how we can actually improve that diversity at board level. So in terms of the data that's showing on the screen, this is actually the first time we've asked for this data. So in terms of the board diversity, 84 of the companies that responded to the survey this year provided us with this data, and it actually provided us with data for 627 board members. So it's given us a reasonable sized data set to actually have a little look at. So if you were one of the organisations that shared this with us, thank you so much. It's really giving us that extra level of insight into kind of how we're made up and what we're looking at. So you'll see from the slide some of our key data. So 22% of our board members are women, 6% are from ethnic minority groups, and 2% are individuals with a disability. So you will see that all 3 of these figures do actually fall below that ONS benchmark. However, it's really a good step that we're actually collecting this data now, because obviously by having this data we can then start making improvements in what we're doing in this space. So it is a really positive step that we've taken. And I suppose one of the questions people always ask is, why is it important? Why is it important for us to have that diversity at board level? And it drives so much benefit, and it has been shown time and time again that it's such an important thing to have, is that diversity at that senior leadership level. I think when people come into an organisation, or certainly they're looking at joining an organisation, if they can see themselves represented, whether it's from their background, whether it's perhaps the way that they look, they are more likely to join that organisation. You are going to encourage that diversity throughout the entire company. So it definitely has that trickle effect. If we get things right at board level. I think as well it's really important that we don't always have those same voices and same opinions in the room. I don't think we want to sit there and we just want people to nod along and go, yeah, great idea, that's fantastic. You want people to provide a different perspective. You want people to challenge. You want to have that really rich discussion throughout those meetings, because then you're going to have better decision making. You're going to shape the way that you do things as an organisation better. So it's really, really powerful to get that diversity level at that level right. I think in terms of, again, it's not just that tick box exercise. By having that data, it makes us have that kind of insight so we can do something different. So we're not just doing the same thing time and time again. I think there's quite a few organisations, such as like the 30% Club, that are actually looking to have 30% of board members women in organisations. So again, if we do set targets, if we have something that we're striving towards, you're going to invest your energy, you're going to invest the people to actually make a change and drive that. So it's really, really powerful that we've now got this data. But I think as well, to have people ready to move into those board positions, to have a diverse range of candidates, we really need to understand why we are perhaps not keeping people in our organisations, why we're not keeping that diverse group of people in our sector. So that's something that we wanted to actually explore within this section, is actually why are people leaving, who's leaving, when are they leaving, and why are they leaving? So again, from the data that we've collected, 209 companies actually provided us with this information, and you can see from the slide that the 62.3% have left not only the organisation but the industry. So there is something there that we need to look at as an industry. How do we keep this diverse range of individuals with us? And then we've got that 37.7% as well that have moved perhaps from their organisation, but they've stayed within the industry and the sector as well as. In terms of kind of breaking down the detail a little bit further, you can see that 21.3% of leavers were women. So this is slightly below this year's benchmark, and actually we're going to delve into this in a little bit more detail on the next slide when we start examining the age at which women are leaving our organisation. For ethnic minority groups and people with disabilities, there has been a slight decline in leavers for both of these groups, so that is positive, and hopefully that's representative of the work that's going on in this space, but there is certainly more that we need to do here. LGBTQIA+ has remained consistent with last year. However, I think what we really wanted to point out here is actually the percentage of leavers is higher than the percentage of LGBTQIA+ individuals currently employed within the sector. So there's something that we need to do in this space to understand this further. In terms of religion and belief, my notes aren't scrolling down. In terms of religion and belief, the numbers have, thank you, slightly increased since 2023, but again, it's not significantly higher than the benchmark either. And then we can start looking at the age range of leavers as well as. So you'll see that we are losing slightly more young people that are employed within the sector. However, the percentage of leavers has decreased. So there is a slight positive there, but there is certainly more that we need to do in this space to retain the young talent that we're bringing in. And then you'll see for workers between 50 and 65, there has been an increase, as you'd probably expect in this space, but it's not necessarily a negative, especially where we're focusing on bringing that younger talent in as well. And then I think we can actually break down this further, and I find this slide really quite interesting, actually. So this is obviously looking at that age profile of leavers, broken down by gender as well. So on the left-hand side, we've got the whole kind of data set, and then we've got it broken down into men and women as well. So you'll see that the men actually closely mirrors the one for the whole set as well. So we've got that peak in the 25 to 40 age range at approximately 15%, and then there's that steady plateau until it reaches the age of 65. Whereas women, we've got a huge peak, and that's in the 25 to 35 age range, so that's around 20%. And then there's this real steep decline for the percentage of women leavers, which goes all the way down to 65 then as well as. So I think what it's really showing us, this slide, is that women are leaving the sector at much higher rates before the age of 35. And obviously this could be a critical point in careers, kind of in their lives as well. But again, it's going to have that long-term impact in terms of that pipeline for senior leadership positions if women are leaving the workforce. And again, I think when we examine this even further in terms of those leaving the sector, there are those clear trends. So I think as well, we can deduce from this that actually once a woman leaves, they very rarely return as well to our workforce as well, because they're showing that similar decline. But the leavers curve is noticeably steeper for the women at younger ages. And I suppose one of the reasons that I really wanted to highlight this, and I found this quite surprising, but the average age for board members is 63.1. The average age for CEOs is 58, and the average age for senior leadership team members is 42. So if we're losing such a significant amount of women earlier on in their careers, they're not actually going to be moving to a position where they can actually move into those senior positions. So again, looking at this more broadly, we're doing a great deal to attract people to our industry, to encourage women into our businesses, but actually we need to start doing more to retain those individuals. We need to do more to make sure that we don't lose that key talent earlier on, and that they're there to move into those senior positions as well. And that's absolutely essential to building that kind of diverse leadership group. So that was all the data that we had on this. We're going to move now into our panel. So I would like to welcome our panellists onto the stage, and we're going to explore this in a bit more detail as to what strategies we can kind of implement to bring those leaders. Thank you.